he will not be acquitted. You cannot be acquitted if you don't have a trial, and you don't have a trial if you don't have witnesses and documentation and that. I would hope that the senators, if it comes to a tie or if there's a question of hearing testimony or receiving documents, would leave it up to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Joining us now, member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Democrat Chris Murphy of Connecticut. And I'd like to start off by asking you a bit about what Speaker Pelosi was just saying. So, no witnesses, no trial. We can all give our opinion as to what we think about the sad state of our democracy right now. But what's next?
Well, I mean, this is going to be an enormous stain on the United States Senate if today goes as expected. There's also
Yep.
Yeah, there's also rumors that we may not even have deliberations, that we may not go behind closed doors and talk to each other about the consequences of what we've heard. So we're going to have a trial with no witnesses. We're going to have a trial with no deliberations. That isn't a trial. And I think Speaker Pelosi is right. Then this can't be a real acquittal. And of course, we're going to find out what John Bolton said. I mean, the fact is that Senate Republicans can't cover this up forever. So we're going to find out exactly what Donald Trump said to John Bolton. We're going to find out eventually the scope of this corruption. And then it's going to be too late because the trial will be over and we'll be in the middle of a re-election campaign in which the president will be potentially empowered, potentially green-lighted to do more of the kind of corruption that he engaged in with Ukraine.
Senator, it's Willie Geist. Good to see you this morning. We've had a table full of political experts explaining why they believe Lamar Alexander and others will vote today the way that they will vote. But I'm interested in your view from the inside of the United States Senate. Why someone like, let's take Senator Alexander as an example, someone who's retiring, kind of an institutionalist, a guy who's been there for a long time, a conventional Republican, an establishment Republican. Why would he vote, again, not to convict the president, but even to allow evidence and witnesses?
Well, I think these Republicans are putting themselves before the country, and they know that if John Bolton's testimony comes out before they render a verdict, if the American public get to see the former national security advisor talking about the scope of President Trump's direction, his personal direction of this corruption, it makes it really hard for them to vote to acquit. And so they are trying to make the acquittal vote on them as easy as possible. I don't think, though, they get away with it, because I think, frankly, a lot of folks out there, even Trump supporters, are going to be pretty pissed when they hear this evidence, when the book comes out and the president has already been cleared. So I'm so disappointed in my Republican colleagues, because this has just become a show trial, and it does have consequences for the future of the Senate. I don't know why there would be any serious impeachment trial in the future after this precedent is set.
Mike, I would just say one more time, the polling on whether or not the American public believes there should be evidence and witnesses allowed, evidence and witnesses, not vote to convict, ranges between 70 and 80% of the country. So Republicans have taken a 20 or 30% position on this.
Yeah, sure. Well, people know. I mean, people lead their ordinary lives. They sometimes get called for jury duty, and they know what a jury is all about, you know, up or down. What are the facts? Let's listen to the witnesses. Not the case in the United States Senate. Senator, you seem to be a thoughtful guy. You're an articulate guy. You've had a good education. I don't know exactly how long you thought about running for public office locally in Connecticut or certainly the United States Senate. But if you could or would please take a couple of minutes to tell us what you thought of the United States Senate growing up, going to school, and what you think of the United States Senate today.
So I was born in the middle of Watergate, and so my entire political consciousness comes in the aftermath of that crisis. And so in that respect, I grow up cynical about politicians, because I've seen the worst, and that is happening literally at the very beginning of my childhood. But I also watched the United States Congress react to that crisis, right? I learned about it. I heard my parents talk about it. And I ran for this institution because I thought that the Congress of the United States, and in particular the United States Senate, was built to be a check on an executive who had gotten out of control with abuse of power. And so I got to tell you, I mean, I've never been sadder than I am today, because I grew up believing that this place that I spent all of this time and energy running for was the place that made sure American democracy wasn't taken for granted. And now we are not only refusing to do that job, but we are empowering a president who is no doubt going to take our action, potentially today, and engage in more of the corruption that he is accused of. And it just makes me so sad as an American.
Senator, I think a lot of other people went to the Senate thinking the same things you did. And now we are so divided as a country that the House has always been a very divided place. But the Senate is something special. And my question is do you think that they will be able to continue to work in bipartisan ways that they have been in the past? Or is this rift very personal and something that is really just because it's so important and it's our national security at risk, it's our Constitution, and it's everything that we are as a country? Does this put a permanent rift, do you believe, between the members of the Senate?
I think this is the most serious breach of our oath of office that I've seen here. And so I don't think that things are going to go back to normal on Monday. At the same time, we're going to have to find a way to work together. I mean, I think about Ukraine, right? I mean, Ukraine is still at risk of being overrun by Russia. The president's not going to protect Ukraine. And so it's up to the Senate to do that. And so, you know, I've got to find a way to reach back out to my Republican colleagues like Ron Johnson and start to rebuild American policy towards Ukraine. That's going to be hard, but I think it's necessary. I mean, it's ultimately our job to be able to move past these moments. It's just going to be a lot harder this time.
Senator Chris Murphy, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning.
Thanks.
And coming up, a new recording obtained by NBC News appears to show President Trump and indicted Giuliani associate Lev Parnas together at Mar-a-Lago, even though Trump likes to say he doesn't know him. That new reporting is next on Morning Joe.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.